Everybody, what's happening? Welcome back to Life Pro Tip Thursday. Today we'll be talking about internet and computer safety for students. We did parents yesterday, we'll do students today. Topics we'll go over include personal information, password, links, downloads, and finances and purchases. And I decided to sort of scale it in terms of risk from low to moderate to medium, or low, medium, moderate, high. So quick check-ins. We are planning on going and visiting my grandma for the first time in months. So she's at an assisted living place that is maybe 3 blocks from our house. It takes about 2 minutes to get there in a car. It's been a long time, and they're starting to open up to window visits. So we're going to try to see if we can get that scheduled. Media review. Throughout this, for the random facts, I have been using an app called Reddit. And it can sort of suck you in, and there's a whole lot of content on Reddit that is wholly inappropriate, and you want to make sure that you've got good filters on. But there's also quite a bit of content in Reddit that's kind of fun to browse through, and the ones that I used for these presentations or screencasts were Today I Learned and Life Pro Tips. So speaking of that, today I learned 15% of Twitter accounts are actually robots. They're not real people. And 15% doesn't sound like a ton until you realize that that means that there are 48 million Twitter accounts that are not controlled by people, that are just robots. So when you think you're talking to somebody or following somebody, 15% of the time it might actually be not a person. So on personal information, going for risk levels, I was going to start with low risk. So sharing things like a nickname or small talk, or if you're on like a video game and you're talking with somebody else, sharing likes and dislikes, that's pretty low risk. We get up to medium risk when we start telling people our real names or our usernames or our email addresses. Now, just that information by itself doesn't pose a huge risk to your privacy and protection, but it is the next level. Another layer up are where you live, your phone number, and pictures and videos. So these are things that can really be risky and get you into trouble. From solicitors, from people that are trying to get you to buy things, or just send you information. So the other thing that I really wanted to talk about here was pictures and videos. There are a ton of apps out there like Snapchat where it says that these pictures are not going to be able to be saved. They're not stored on any sort of device. And that is not true at all. Anytime you're posting a picture or a video of yourself onto the internet, you just got to assume that it's going to be there forever. If it's a Snapchat, the other person might be taking screenshots. And if it's something like Facebook or Instagram, even if you deactivate your account, those posts, those images, those videos, they're all still there. So really think hard when you're going to put something of yourself out there on the internet. Highest risk category would be things like financial information, government ID numbers like a passport or a social security number, or giving out your passwords. So if you're going to be giving out any of that online, and there are times when that risk is necessary, like for example, I forgot my login for one of my financial institutions, and I had to go through a whole host of personal information to verify that it was me. On one hand, that's great that they're making sure it's me and staying safe, but on the other hand, it's making me really uncomfortable to be giving out all of that information. So there are times when you might have to take those high risks, but in general, you want to keep those as protected as you possibly can. Moving on to passwords, most of you guys have heard something about password security and safety. High risk here would be just having the word password as your password, or like 12345, or your name. I don't know that anyone is still doing that. I certainly hope that's not you. Moderate risk would be the same password for multiple sites, and I don't want to be too hypocritical here because I do this. For any like food ordering, especially now that we're doing more takeout and carry out, I have the same password for like Papa John's login and Costa Vida, For anything that's like food related, I have the same password. I never store my credit card with those sites, and I never even like store my order for quick order remembering. It's really just so I can remember if I'm trying to order something what that password is. But it's not a great practice. Ideally, you shouldn't do that. Another moderately risky password behavior is having full words instead of what we're going to go into next, which are passphrases. So if you can use a passphrase, that takes that risk level down quite a lot. So make it unique, insert some characters. I get made fun of a lot because of my passwords. They're passphrases, but they always have like the at symbol for an A or a hashtag for a T. Don't want to give too many things out here, but essentially you want to create something that a robot can't just search a dictionary and put in for a password. So that's kind of how some hacking software works. It just imputes an entire dictionary of common words or phrases even into your login to try to see if they can get a match. It doesn't take them very long. It's kind of like just a random number generator. Let's see what we can get. So the more unique you can make it, the better you are. If you want to be really protected, look into something called a password manager. I haven't gotten to this step yet, but I would really like to at some point. Essentially, this is software that keeps everything encrypted to a ludicrous degree, and it saves everything so you don't have to remember that many different passwords. So you will eventually come up with sort of a master password to get into your password manager. But the way that it's all encrypted, this is the safest way to go. Links and ads, clicking on or following links. So we'll go through the different layers of risk here as well. One of the safest thing that you can do is to actually never click on a link. So let's say, okay, I got one. We had a shipment from REI that was on back order. And so I was, kind of sitting and waiting because it was a really cute pair of sandals for Hadley. And once it was no longer on back order, once it was in stock, I got an email saying, hey, you can track your order here. So that link, I could have clicked on it. It was REI, so I felt like I knew the source. But instead of doing that, the safer thing to do is actually go to REI's website and then enter in the information on their website rather than following the link. Because no matter how legitimate an email looks, emails can be hacked, emails can be stolen, emails can be fabricated. So always going to the true source and not just clicking on a link, even if it's in an email. That's the safest way to go. Next level is if you do get that link in an email or a social media from a friend or a trusted source like that REI link, if I had clicked that, or if my mom sends me a link to a YouTube video, that's kind of like a mild to medium level of risk. Taking that up a notch would be if it's coming from an unknown person or unknown social media account. So if you get an email from someone that you're not familiar with, you're not used to, you're not expecting, or if you're online browsing and you see links in other people's profiles, clicking on those is definitely a moderate level of risk. Highest level of risk, though, is if you get a pop-up and you click on it. And they are really mean in how they make the pop-ups work, where they make the closeout really small, and any other place you click, it opens it up. So be really careful about where you're clicking if you're trying to get rid of the pop-ups. Might be worthwhile getting pop-up blocker or ad blocker, but just really be cautious anytime something comes up that you weren't even looking for. Clicking on that can often lead you to some places that you really don't want to be. Downloads. High level of risk is if you don't do a virus scan, it's an unknown source, and you do it direct to your device. So, yeah, I mean, Kazaa was really popular when I was in high school. I know it's not a thing anymore. But just if you don't really know where the source is and it's just some random file that you're trying to download and you don't do a virus scan, that's the highest level of risk. Direct to device, that means that you're taking it directly from the internet to the hardware on your device, whether it's a tablet, a PC, a laptop, a phone, downloading it directly to like a downloads file right on your PC. That gives it access to just about all of the machinery you have. A little bit more safe is to do a quick virus scan. There's a ton of free programs out there that you can download. It's funny. download and download. There are a lot of them, so make sure it's a trusted source, obviously. But there's a lot of great programs out there that will scan any downloads that you have. Again, if it's an unsure source, if you don't know for sure where you're downloading it from, that's another layer of risk. And again, if you're doing it directly to your device, I can't stress that enough. When you make a download directly to your C drive or your hard drive, it has from there access to just about anything. So the safest thing you can do is get a remote device or a virtual client, and I'll talk about that in a second. So even less risk if it's from a corporate source and you do a quick scan. So a corporate source meaning like McAfee for a virus scanning software is a corporate source, or Adobe is a pretty trusted corporate source. And the reason that a corporate source might be more trustworthy is because they have departments that are completely devoted to making sure that nobody else is hijacking their logos and their websites and presenting a false front. So this is one of the rare instances where I'll actually endorse a bigger company, just because I know that they spend a great proportion of their income and revenue on departments just to make sure that they aren't being hacked or there's not some imposter out there. And then the lowest risk when it comes to downloads are to do a full scan from a vetted source and using something called a remote client or a VPN. So you can use a virtual private network to download things and download them to a location that's not directly on your PC. That could be something like an external hard drive or a protected cloud server. There's a lot of different ways that you could set up some security and safety measures so that you're not giving whatever the download is direct access to your machine. Financial information, low risk would be make any purchases online through your bank. So there's a couple of different options. You can usually try debit, checking, or credit card. There's sometimes this other option of direct from the bank. And if you can do it direct from the bank, you usually have to put in a routing number, but it's more like writing a check than it is like giving them access to your actual account. There's also budgeting software that you can use that will alert you anytime you've made a purchase online, and you can verify that it's the same source and the same amount. This can be really tricky. I remember a few years ago there was software that was taking just extra cents or not even whole dollars off of purchases so that you wouldn't really notice. You'd say, oh yeah, it was about $30 or $25, so that looks right. But it was actually a certain number of cents off. And if you do that to enough people, the software makes a lot of money from that. So there are some programs that you can get that make sure that the purchases you approve are for the correct amount. Going to the next level up, using private mode whenever you're going to make a purchase. So private mode is kind of a false front. It makes you feel a little bit more secure, but there's a lot of ways that it can be hacked, and it might even be more susceptible to people that are trying to take advantage because they're going to look for whenever you are in private mode. However, there are some really nice features about it where it doesn't save cookies or a lot of other information or tracking data from the different websites you used. I really started using private mode when I was shopping for engagement rings so that those ads didn't carry across to other browser windows, so that people that were also on my machines couldn't see that I was looking for that kind of a purchase. You could also, this is probably a step above what most of us are willing to do, but you could have a devoted card or account for online purchases that you could just say, that's the only thing I'm going to use this card for, and that's the only purpose, and I'm not going to use my other accounts for it. And that would just add a layer of, if that one, you're able to monitor the amount of money in that account a little bit easier. Going up, if you give them your bank account number, that's what I was meaning there. Or if you subscribe to free trials. This is something this is kind of one of my pet peeves. I cannot stand free trials because they're never free. There's always some piece of data that you're getting in return for, or that the company's getting in return for the service. And a lot of times, especially if you have to enter in any financial information, these companies will start billing you after your free trial expires without any sort of notification to you. And then it becomes incredibly difficult to stop that payment. You usually end up having to go through your bank account because they already have your information. So I would be very, very skeptical of signing up for any sort of a free trial, or it's only $10 this month for the rest of the year, because then they're going to change the price on you. So be very, very skeptical of free trials. And then lastly, highest risk. This is like auto withdrawal. So I know that a lot of people use this, and um, it's very convenient. That's for sure. It's very nice to not have to log into somewhere and pay bills, or pay a fee, or um, do that every month if it's a repeated balance. But turning on auto withdrawal just opens the door for them to change how much they're taking out, or just, I mean, it gives people a lot more control and access to your finances than most people should be comfortable with. The other thing would be a saved credit card. So this is for things like Google Play or the App Store, or pretty much any website that you can click the box that says save this credit card to your profile. That's just really, really dangerous, and you're giving them a lot of easy access to your finances, which if things do go wrong, unfortunately, you might be unable to recoup some of your losses because you gave them that information willingly. It's not like they stole it without your knowledge or consent. You actually just provided it to them. So be really, really careful there. So, quick challenge. I've been talking for probably longer than most people wanted to listen to. If there's anything that you've got in the high risk area, let a trusted adult know, just to make sure that you're comfortable with that risk. If you're doing anything that's in that moderate risk area, consider some steps you might want to take just to limit your online risk. And if there's anything you've got in the mild risk area, give yourself a pat on the back for being pretty conservative with your internet safety. But more importantly, if you're doing anything in the low risk or the green area, treat yourself to an amazing reward, because you are doing awesome. That's it for today. Hopefully you guys are doing well, and we'll talk to you soon. Take care.